Blog Talk Radio. Welcome, living beneficiaries. This is the estate, the House of Hidalgo Show. This is your host, Rick Hidalgo, also known on Facebook as Eugene Richard of the House of Hidalgo. And tonight we have a really special episode of our radio show. I know I keep saying that every week. We get guests that are just sensational on here. Well, tonight I think that we're just getting better and better and better, and we'll get to that in just a moment. I want to let you know where you can find us. We do have a chat session that you can get into if you go to www.blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP. That's like double play. So that's blogtalkradio.com/South Dakota DP. And there's a chat window that's down at the very bottom of the screen when you click onto the tonight's show. Also, I'd like to direct you to my official website, and that's www.therockofsalem.org. All the archives are there, so you can go there to listen to every show we've ever done. And also, the couple times I was on Cancel the Cabal with Stephen Roberts, I have those video presentations there as well for you to see, so you can go and catch up on all the doings of the House of Hidalgo. But tonight, we got a really special night. In the past, we focused on things like, natural healing, different ways to help out the living beneficiary who's trying to function on Earth the way that God created him to function. Well, tonight we're going to function in a different way. We're going to educate ourselves and learn how it is that God intended this nation to work, specifically within that Second Amendment. We're going to talk a little bit about that word, that M word that the media blows out of proportion, that word militia. Tonight I have a very special guest. His name is Bryan, Free the People. And I hope I don't blow this last name, but I think it's Dusak. And he's a Native American constitutional militia advocate and member. He is a true patriot and a member of the Illinois Sons of Liberty. And I've gotten to know him a little bit, and he's kind of a self-educated guy, which that's my favorite kind of guy, the kind of guy who'll go out there and study for himself to find out what's real and what's not. And he helps other Americans that are tangled up in this corporate web to get out of that entanglement. Let me bring him on here. Bryan, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you here, Mr. Hidalgo. How are you?
Oh, I'm absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited to have you on tonight because this is a subject, Bryan, that we have a real problem with here in America because there's a lot of disinfo out there concerning militia. Right before we get into that, can you tell us how'd you come up with this moniker, the Free the People? Where'd that come from?
I guess it just kind of came to me. I wanted to use something that leaned towards we the people, but I realized that in this day and age, I don't think we the people are we the people that our forefathers intended anymore. We're leaning towards we the slaves. And I always felt like, well, what can I do to kind of help better this predicament, and doing everything I can to try to find more ways and more people that are working towards the goal of freeing the people, and I just thought that that was a really good, really good addition. So I literally haven't done it on paper, but I consider that my middle name now, Free the People. And I actually ended up starting a foundation. It's a DBA under a ranch, actually, in Zona. Now have the Free the People Foundation that we're trying to get off the ground. And we'll be talking about more on that in a second, I assume.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate someone who's out there to really try to help the people, because some people have awakened and realize that they need that help, and yet there are others who are still asleep and still a slave to this system, yet they think that they're free. I think it's an interesting little oxymoron that we got going on in America there. You directed me to a video that I watched right before I came on the program tonight about a constitutional sheriff in Pennsylvania who essentially created a resolution to protect the Second Amendment in his town of Gilbertson. I think his name is Mark Kessler.
Yes, Mr. Mark Kessler, a very good man, one of my current heroes. I've kind of been following his story for a few months now, but just to kind of recorrect you, he's chief of police. He hasn't been a sheriff.
Okay.
You might be crossing that with another hero of mine, Sheriff Richard Mack, which are both of them are LEO law enforcement that are working really hard to stand up and fight for the people, particularly when it comes to Second Amendment rights. They both and many other law enforcement are really waking up to the fact that the tyranny is here. The tyranny is encroaching, and the tyranny is pretty much coming for your guns. And having a certain aspect that I have, being partially Native American, I think anybody who's done a little research or history on that subject might realize that once they disarm you and once they take their weapons, there's usually not good things that are soon to follow. And you can take any Native American's word for that.
Amen. Now let me let me ask you this before we get into the militia issue, because obviously you're very well versed in what's going on there and what it's all about. How was it that you became involved in militia?
Well, much like you, actually, in 08 and 09 is kind of where I started out. I considered myself an investigative journalist of my own sorts, and I wanted to reach out to other like-minded individuals, or at least wake up, others that were starting to open their eyes. And one of the topics that we were going to cover was militias, and there's a lot of bad out there when it comes to mainstream and the media that really paint them in a certain light. The more you wake up, the more you realize why they're doing such, but I wanted to either prove them right or prove them wrong. So what better way than to jump on our friend Google and, look up Illinois and the word militia, and that was the first group that popped up. And I did a little research on them and a few others, and they seem to be more of a, the constitutional type. If you actually go to where I went, www.illinoissonsofliberty.com, it explains right there on their face page that it's not some, neo-Nazi, Zoom dweeby, prejudice, KKK recruiting clan whatsoever. It's quite the opposite, really, because especially in such a diverse community like Illinois, they really want to reach out to other ethnic backgrounds and really want to reach out to other cultures. I mean, that's mainly what this state in particular is comprised of. And we're fine with that. We don't, issue any other groups ill will. Got to admit, we're slightly skeptical towards any radicals. But even Caucasians, if they're radically saying, they're not going to work with any other groups, colors, races, or kinds, then those are the guys that we feel become, the ones that we have to watch. But basically, how I got involved is I called the number on the website and talked to the commander, told him I wanted to do an interview, and if he could bring a couple of his members with him to a studio that we were using at the time, and he brought 3 gentlemen with him, and it was kind of interesting that one of them he was partially Hispanic, another was partially Oriental, and another was a variety, a mud of European descent. So for them, in the media to state that it's some right-wing extremists, Caucasians against other groups is totally and completely misleading. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure there are other groups like that in other states, but this group in particular was the one I wanted to talk to because they weren't like that. You should have a lot of listeners right now. A lot of them I've been friends with since high school of a variety of backgrounds, and anybody would know that I'm not a prejudiced person. It's not my bag of tea. If anything, along my lifeline, I've been an anti-skin in high school at some point in time. Anybody that was kind of giving off that KKK vibe knew to watch out for the guys that I was hanging out with at the time.
Right.
But more or less, this group is definitely not what it was cracked up to be. It's not what the media would have you believe. So as time went by, maybe a few weeks went by after the show actually aired on public access in Chicagoland, the commander gave me a call and said, "Dude, you just recruited more people in one show than all of us have been able to do in the last 3-4 years."
Wow.
And the website had over 30,000 hits the first issue and another 30,000 hits the second time that show aired as we interviewed those four gentlemen from the Sons of Liberty. So a lot of people, were curious about the idea. A lot of people wanted to know what it's all about, and I think, we threw them into a good limelight that they needed to be in. I still have yet to meet any members that I would consider, right-wing extremists because it's such a blend. It's about 40% veterans, and the rest just a variety of LEOs, some politicians, but they're all good, overall good guys, and the rest just everyday Joes like you and me that just want to, get to know like-minded individuals that, know about prepping or storing food or a little bit about weapons and how to protect yourself. And, anybody in this day and age who's watching what's going on with our Second Amendment, and even some of the others that maybe were sleeping, are not reading the entire Second Amendment and seeing the word militia more often. Well, if our forefathers were willing to use it in the very Second Amendment, not the Fifth Amendment, not the 10th Amendment, they made it number 2 for a reason.
Right.
And it's a very important word. A lot of people think a militia is really something that you join. And, from day one, I've been trying to help convince these guys a militia is something you are.
Right.
If you've got a belly button and you're an American and you were born in the States and you're a citizen, you are already of militia. You are in a militia whether you like it or not.
That's
you
right.
are the people, and you have the right to take up arms. You don't have to join a little gang or a group or whatever. You and 5 other guys, when the poop hits the fan and a couple of you have got guns and you're just trying to fend for yourselves, you're militia. You didn't join a group. You're already there. You are already militia, and it's just up to you to decide, are you going to cower in a corner under the stairs when the bomb drops or the shit hits the fan or a terrorist act happens or, a situation somewhat like Red Dawn if we get invaded or there's martial law? What are you going to do? Well, I've got a wife, and I've got lots of good friends, lots of them, and I don't want to scapegoat out like that. So whatever I can do to help educate or help network or help them, with supplies or education or knowledge, I'm going to help them. And if anybody else out there is trying to do the right thing in this day and age right now, which is what we need, you bet your ass I want to be behind them 100%.
10-4 on that. I just want to get this word out here real quick here. You can ask your questions in the chat at the bottom of the page there, or you could call in at 619-639-4605, and I'll put you on the line with Bryan. Bryan, on the note you were just speaking of, and I'm in total agreement with you, you and I have a lot in common in that area because both of us kind of came recently out of the same area where we were both really self-studying and trying to figure out what a real Republican form of government was supposed to be. And so you and I both really dove in and studied and figured out what a militia was intended to be and what it was really supposed to be. Why do you think it is that the media bashes the militia so badly? Why is it that they compare militias to the Black Panthers or the KKK or whoever it is? What What's really the agenda there? What's going on, Bryan, as far as you're concerned? Your take.
Well, let's put it in a realistic light. Let's say you're in a position of power, and that power may or may not be threatened. Now, there's going to be a variety of ways that the quote-unquote enemy would come to you to usurp your power. Some would be by force, some would be by law, some would have somebody else do it. Some would kill you. Well, unfortunately, those in power are in a certain limelight right now where they very well know society is waking up to the evils and the wrongs and the slavery and the the fixing and the backdoor deals and the illegalities that they're performing. It would only make sense to try to portray anybody who is a threat to you in a certain light to get the oral majority of society against them instead of looking at you. And that's pretty much the bottom line of it. If you actually go to, you're really familiar with the SPLC, not that they really have any authority, but they are the advisors to the feds and the CIA about who the extremists are out there. Now, I don't know who the jagbags are that are doing the research over there, but for a couple years, the Sons were in the hate group category, and they recently pulled us out of that category and just aligned us with the militia category. But if you actually look at that list of their top, threats outside of actual terrorists with, Al-Qaeda or whatever, whatever groups they're with, you're going to see a lot of freedom-fighting, freedom-loving, patriotic, true patriotic people that are just trying to follow the freaking Constitution and, keep the country as good old America what it used to be. Anybody who pretty much opposes that globalistic, I hate to get conspiracy theory on you, but the New World Order agenda is a threat to them. If it's against the bank and the financiers, then they're going to portray you in a certain light to get the oral majority of society against you. Well, it's actually being indoctrinated into the youth in the schools right now that our own forefathers that founded this nation were actually, they consider them terrorists because they defected from the Queen.
Right. Yeah, I believe that was in the MIAC report.
Right.
Yeah, I believe.
It's just unreal. They want to put militias in this position because now more than ever, and I think any militia member that's watching right now, especially any officers of any given state, are seeing that numbers are in some areas doubling and quadrupling. We've seen it here in the Sons. We kind of brag about a network, although our website doesn't reflect these exact numbers, but we do brag that there is a network of over 50,000 in Illinois alone. And, if I was doing something wrong and I was in a position of authority, I would find that as uncomfortable, knowledge, knowing that there's, that pretty much outnumbers the police force in Illinois.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this question, Bryan. I appreciate that answer. And by the way, just to let you know, you feel free to talk about the New World Order or whatever you want to on this show. We're wide open. We look at the big picture all the way from the top. We've nailed the Vatican on several occasions on this show, so don't worry about that. I want to ask you, can you take us, without giving away anything that's too compromising or strategic, can you take us through a typical, what's a typical day of being a part of an organized militia? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
All right. Well, I started off as a gunnery sergeant. We used the same rank system as some of the military does. Not that when the poop actually hits the fan, will all of that be fully taken into account? There's going to be a mishmash of a lot of people freaking out if the poop ever did hit the fan. So we try to keep some sort of rank and file system the best we can. Realistically, we know that when 1,000 people come out of a certain neighborhood, are we going to immediately make them all privates? Probably not. They're not going to all listen to one individual. I started off as a gunnery sergeant, and the actual members that came in, I linked them to certain to certain businesses that were willing to fulfill some of our needs as far as supplies go. I'll just put it like that.
Okay.
You know, I showed that I was, you know, willing to work with the group as a whole, and actually increased my rank 2 years ago to first lieutenant. But after more people came on board and we had a massive jump as far as membership went, I actually went down a couple ranks and backed myself off and offered to just become a more of a recruiter position. So as of right now, I'm considered E5 staff sergeant, but as of right now, I consider myself the recruiter for the Sons of Liberty. I have brought in more people than, you know, others, but, you know, everybody's doing their own job the best we can to wake up our neighbors, family, friends. But I'm just the kind of guy that's not really scared anymore. I know that the law states plainly in the Illinois State Constitution, Article 12, Sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, plainly state what the militia is supposed to be. And if anybody wants me to paint, you know, to paint me in another picture or in another light, well, they've got it all wrong.
Right.
A typical day for me would just really be talking to just about anybody I can. You know, you could be at, you know, I like to play pool. So if I'm out playing pool at a local venue and somebody says, wow, man, they just took another $112 out of my check every week because taxes went up out here. Well, how do you feel about that? And, you know, right off the bat, you've got another avenue to show in and be like, well, wouldn't you like to meet some like-minded individuals that are learning ways to kind of protect yourself from, you know, certain further encroachments of the, you know, illicit federal government, or as I call it, the corporation.
Sure.
You know, as you start telling people about, although the straw man theory has its own glitches in it, once you realize what's gone on with Social Security and the birth certificate fraud and, you know, Social Security, for example, you know, this is a binding contract that states that they can take money out of your check on a weekly basis to go into a fund that's supposed to be there when you become 55 or 65. Well, you know, I'm approaching 40. I'm not going to see the, you know, $180,000 that should be in there right now. I'm never going to.
Right.
I'm not going to.
Right.
If anything, I might be lucky and get maybe $800 a month when I hit the age of 55, if that. But my problem is I was signed into this agreement the day I was born without my consent, without me wanting to be part of this. As far as I know, no contract really has a standing unless you're over the age of 18. Am I correct?
No, I agree. There's several points of a valid contract that are violated there.
You know, so I mean that's just one aspect of how do we get that back? How do we take ourselves back? I mean, the birth certificate bond. You know, some people have tried to shoot down that theory and say that those bonds don't exist. But you know, the more and more I read about it, the more and more it's kind of obvious that you know there's a variety of subjects when it comes to the word bond in and of itself. But you know, the birthing bond is one that you know, I think needs to be approached publicly, and you know, there needs to be some sort of whistleblower, some sort of authority figure out there that actually does some actual research with proven, hard and factual evidence that they have created a bond the day you were born, and there is an account with my name on it floating around somewhere, getting traded as a mutual fund on the exchange somewhere, and it's mine. I should be able to have that back. There's money out there floating around that they're using in my name without my permission, without my consent. I want to get closer to that bond. Everybody should. Everybody should be able to retract that and, you know, uncommercialize themselves if possible. You know, as of right now, the day we're born, we become commercial entities in these shell bodies, but I'd like to be 100% my own man again. And, you know, what partially led me to this path was back in '93, I was traveling with some friends who happened to be of full Native American persuasion, and, you know, driving on the highways and got pulled over, and it was in plain view. There was a few things in that vehicle that definitely should not have been, but this gentleman that was driving flashed his Native American card at the trooper that pulled us over, and although, you know, there was contraband in the vehicle, the officer didn't want to have anything to do with us and drove us straight out of the state. without any further questions, without any further problems. And I just feel that, for the most part, any normal, God-fearing, true American that's out there should have the capability to move freely without anybody questioning their judgments, as long as they're not hurting anybody. As you know and I know and a lot of the listeners know, no victim, no crime. So if nobody's a complainer and nobody's said, well, this party has damaged myself or my property, there really is no crime. Blowing off a stop sign, to me, is a non-crime. Driving with a gun, a fully automatic gun on your passenger seat, sure, is there potentially a hazard there if this person's not of the sound mind? Yeah, okay. But if they're not doing anything wrong, there is no crime. There is no offense. Why would you just give somebody a fine or arrest them for just carrying a weapon? It doesn't become an actual weapon until you actually use it. And, there's plenty of other instances that I'm sure you could think up in your head that kind of follow along with that people are getting charged for a variety of things and end up in jail for things that when there is no actual damaged party whatsoever. A majority of the cases out there, in fact, are state versus such and such. A domestic abuse. Even if it's only two people yelling, slamming doors, and throwing stuff, and the wife says, well, no, I don't want to press charges. We just called the police because, my husband was really angry and throwing stuff. Okay, well, they still arrest the husband, and even though the wife says, no, I don't want to press charges, the state's going to press charges, and that's going to follow him around. He's got to take classes and take time off work and pay fines. And that was a non-crime. The wife said, no, I don't want to press charges. He didn't hit me. But still, you end up, $1,000 here and some classes here and time off of work. And those are just a few instances. It gets much worse than that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. We talk a lot on this particular program about the fact that a state is just a fictitious entity, and we really have a higher jurisdiction when we walk in our original jurisdiction under God. Really, the state has no jurisdiction, but they try to place us in fictitious jurisdictions, and that's how they get us on all kinds of things. So I totally agree with you. You're talking my language here with all that.
We could go into another related subject. That, for example, anybody who's dealing with crime or dealing with charges ends up in court. They are recommended or sometimes forced to get a lawyer. And anybody who's got Google access right now could just type in, secret oath of a lawyer, or what does the bar stand for? BAR, the British accreditation. What's the R stand for? Registry. So when a lawyer crosses the bar, they're actually pledging an oath to the Queen to basically get more money from us, the serfs and slaves. And that money, as far as I know, doesn't even stay in this country. I mean, don't those fines usually generally end up to pay off an old borrowed debt from the IMF?
Yeah, they've even done some research. There was a Grace Commission that took place during Ronald Reagan's administration, where they discovered that not a penny of the taxes that you pay or that you voluntarily pay to the IRS ever go to anything in this country.
Right. Federal taxes don't, but the state taxes supposedly stay within for roads and education, supposedly. And that's just another long line of things that I've learned over time, and it's all right here, plain in our faces. If you're just not so lazy or fluoridated that you get one of sunshine in your head and you realize, holy cow, it's all a big sham, and you have to look it up and do some actual research and not just go with some biased point of view from I'm not going to mention any mainstream news quote unquote reporters, but if they're being paid by certain people to only divulge certain things or to twist things in their favor or to actually completely delete details entirely, you just can't really trust mainstream media anymore. You need to go to the source, do your research. an old friend that I've actually done a couple interviews on in the past when I was doing public access is now very much in the limelight, and a lot of things are being spun around on him just due to the fact that they want to sway the people's attention somewhere else right now. Are you familiar with what a former Marine by the name of Adam Kokesh is going through right now?
You know, I was actually going to bring that up to you. I was going to ask you what's going on with this Adam Kokesh story. I know that originally he was going to have a march, a peaceful march or demonstration on Washington, D.C., and the word was that they were no longer going to target Washington, D.C., but they're going to do the capitals of the 50 states. Maybe you got a lot more information that you can share.
I've been on, he's been on my show a few times, and basically before he started up with Adam versus the Man, we had a long talk when I was actually doing another radio show, and, you know, I've never felt that he was a plant. I never felt that he was working for Obama. I've never felt that he was, you know, working for the Russians or anything in that field. If you know, again, another Google reference, if you were to actually just type in Adam Kokesh speech, it's the very first one that comes up. He was speaking at if I'm not mistaken, a Ron Paul Freedom rally, and that was by far one of the most touching patriotic speeches I've ever heard in my life. And I think I'm a pretty good judge of character, so I don't think that this gentleman was working against the people in any way, shape, or form. And, you know, I had him on the show. We've had some good talks, and then he started Adam versus the Man. You know, we hadn't talked for maybe even a good year or so outside of, you know, Facebook comments, but there was a group, and not many people know this. You know, Adam definitely was going to partake in this march on the 4th of July, but this march was not his idea. And a lot of people are slamming this guy, giving him a bad rap because they're thinking that he started this up and he's trying to incite a riot, and this riot's going to start martial law and it's going to be a big bloodbath. Well, a lot of people kind of need to lay off him a little bit because he did not start this. Yeah, and I can prove it right now. Once again, a Google reference, but you could type in "Prepare to Take America Back." There's a group that started on Facebook just in every state and nation. It's called Prepare to Take America Back, the main one. And if you actually put a space and then just type in 4th, as in 4th of July, so you have Prepare to Take America Back 4th, hit enter, boom, it'll all come up. They had posted early on in the year before Adam even got on board with their program that they were the ones who put out the press release. It was done by DC Clothesline is the one who put out the main article about them, and that got shared all over the Internet. And they're the ones who actually started that march idea. They're the ones who brought it up. They're the ones who did it. And I'll tell you what, a lot of militias, we do talk to them from other states, were freaking the hell out. Obviously, it felt like an attempt to incite something. And, you know, a lot of us preppers and trainers and gun advocates are trying very hard to avoid any sort of martial law whatsoever, whatever state it's going to be in. And I got to admit, when Adam got on board, I was not for that. I'm still not for an armed march in Washington because not only can you not have a gun in Washington, D.C., so you're all going to get arrested and most likely lose your gun privileges and get put on a watch list, even worse than most.
Right.
You know, this very could lead people to their death. We've seen how the government's reacted as far as being a police state over the course of the last 3 months or so, 4 months this year. And we've only proven that they have no prejudice. They don't care. Men, women, children are all free game. I'm sure you've seen the targets that the DHS is working with online. They've got actual shooting range targets of old, chubby men, pregnant women, little kids with guns, and they're using those as targets. So they don't care what age, race, kind of creed you are. If you're a threat and they're, even though there'll be illegal orders to shoot on citizens, they're going to take those orders and they're going to act violently. You know, all it's going to take is one jackass with a firecracker or some douchebag with a BB gun to shoot the wrong guy. One gun goes off. There's going to be a lot of guns going off. We're not for that at all.
And I have two questions related to that. First, you know, let's go back to Boston. Do you feel the same way that I do? about Boston just being kind of a precursor, a practice, if you will, for martial law?
I think there was a combination of things that happened there. Anybody who's now awake totally understands the false flag. Google false flag if you don't know what I'm talking about right now. But, I feel personally that there was at least on scene 4 or 5 different agencies there: the locals, the state, the Fed, CIA, as well as military, and there's another one. There was a bomb squad division there. So you've got all these different divisions all there practicing, or at least interacting with a bomb drill. They told the people at the beginning of that race that this is a bomb simulation drill. We are practicing for if a bomb were to happen in real life. And I think a combination of things actually happened there. Besides proving America's incompetency, considering it had all the major divisions there, and they had dogs and the certain bomb-detecting equipment, and still didn't find these bombs. I mean, that only proved one thing, but I think down the line what actually happened was somebody at the top knew exactly what was going to happen and orchestrated the event, because it could have only happened like that. Why were all these divisions mainly at the beginning of the race or at the middle of the race and told not outside of the security? Not a lot of these different divisions were at the end of the race where the bombs actually happened. So somebody kind of steered that staff towards the top half of the race and limited the presence at the back half of the race where the bomb they most likely knew was already going to go off. There's just too much happening there where all these divisions didn't foresee what was going on, and then you've got the whole that one soldier that lost his legs.
Right.
There would have been a lot more blood. I've seen trauma in my time, and that gentleman was not bleeding nearly enough, considering he was missing now both his legs from the bottom down. There's a main artery in your right leg that would have been spewing, and that man only had about 2 minutes to live.
Right.
And he was fine. And he hadn't lost all of his color. His lips weren't blue.
Right.
It was just incredible that he even made it for more than 5 minutes and wasn't immediately put on some sort of life support or blood transfusion. It's just a combination of factors just don't come into play. I mean, why is all the video evidence only in one, small group's hands that's doing the investigation? Why did they confiscate everything? Why did this bomb go off? Not a lot of people know that bomb, if you actually look at the address of where it went off, that's an actual embassy right there. That building on the second floor was an embassy. I'm trying to remember which one. I want to say Portuguese. But why didn't that happen at McDonald's? Why didn't that happen at Arby's down the way? Why did that happen at an actual embassy's property?
I hear you. And we've seen this before. I mean, a bunch of times. I hate to beat a dead horse, but let's think back to September 11, 2001, when they could have scrambled the jets, yet they didn't scramble the jets. There were all these pieces, all these elements that you're scratching your head as an American thinking, man, their story just makes absolutely no sense. So yeah, we've seen that before, where the event was set up or orchestrated in such a way as to the people were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I'm highly convinced at this point, if you look at the ratio, any publicly, well, I can't say any, but most publicly announced drills that involve more than 2 or 3 departments usually end up in some sort of catastrophe. Because they were doing, that day on 9/11, they were doing a drill for what would happen if a plane hit the Twin Towers. Coincidentally, a plane hit the Twin Towers. How can we be in a full drill expecting something like this to happen with all the equipment on and all the staff and personnel where they should be, watching this happen, and it actually happened? It doesn't take maybe 5 minutes for a jet fighter to be on location anywhere in the United States.
Right,
and knock it out of the sky. They could have knocked it into the harbor, but they were told to stand down. and who did the
Right.
investigation? I mean, just paid confidants of, the usurpers. Yeah, do an investigation. Just don't tell anybody anything. Great.
Yeah. I don't trust any of those investigations anymore. They lead to nothing. They get a fall guy. It's about it. But
I would love to see a dream team of guys like you, me, Richard Mack, and Kessler, and maybe Gary Franchi or Alex Jones. Get a panel together of actual. Well, maybe not Alex Jones. He's a pain in the ass. But everyday Joes for the most part that people know and people do trust, and let them do the investigation publicly. Of course, a couple of them might end up disappeared or erased, but that would only further prove that something fishy is going on here. But it would be nice to have a panel to publicly do that.
Our problem is we're not in their university system. See, we don't have a doctorate in investigation from Washington D.C.U. That's
a bar card.
Or a
we're
bar
not working
card
for the Queen. Yeah, we don't have a bar card, so we're not in that little fancy club of theirs.
Yeah, so that's a problem. But I got to tell you this. I got to tell you this story. I got a good friend who has a show called Cancel the Cabal. Stephen Roberts. Stephen Roberts interviewed a guy who's running for Congress in New York. You're gonna love this. Okay, this guy. At first, he sounded like a really great guy. He sounded like he was really on top of things. He was talking about sovereignty, and he was using all these great buzzwords. But as the show continued, we started to get a definition of what sovereignty meant to him. And he had a whole different take on Kokesh. I mean, this guy is a psyops guy if I ever seen one. I mean, he must be a plant, and I'm guessing he's going to win in New York whenever they go to the polls, because this guy, he did a psychological evaluation on Kokesh right on that show. Talked about how this guy's a psycho, this guy's, mentally disturbed, and all these things, Bryan. And it was really, really well put together in such a way where the normal sheeple would buy it, hook, line, and sinker. And I got to tell you, he was talking about these guys called the Patriot Riders. Who are they?
Patriot Guard Riders.
Yeah, Guard Riders.
Yep, Patriot PGR. They're usually comprised of veterans, a lot of LEO, and some everyday Joes. They basically 99% actual, probably Harley or custom bike riders that basically escort soldiers to and from the airport when they're going on or off duty, and they definitely help out with the guiding up the funerals. If there's a funeral of a veteran that's coming home and unfortunately toe tag, they're going to escort them to their funeral and stay silent during the funeral. And a big part of what they do is also get those jagbag Westboro Baptist Church people off the property the best they can, so that they're not yelling that soldiers are gay and God hates soldiers.
Right.
Although I can't say I agree with bloodshed war, and I think most issues can, for the most part, could be done verbally, and some compromise can be made on certain subjects. But in reality, we know that when somebody's coming to kill you or wants to hurt you, you can only take defense, and sometimes that's lethal as well. But although I don't fully agree with violence, but these PGR guys are just doing the best they can to to help out and help out and show their support for veterans is mainly. Well, what did this guy say about PGR?
Well, what he was saying was that all these Patriot Guard riders were going to be there to counter what Kokesh was trying to do. He was calling for these Patriot Guard riders to be there in case Kokesh went off the deep end. Do you buy that?
Well, this guy's kind of a D-bag in my mind because, all right, let's go back to Adam mainly. When when you're in the limelight, you make enemies as well. Not everybody likes me. I've got enemies out there that, don't like me because I speak out. And whether they see some fault in what I do or what Adam does, that's on them. I brush it off. It doesn't bother me. Let them hate. Let them be haters. But, as far as Adam goes, to put, as far as him associating himself to this event, again, I don't totally agree with an armed march for a variety of reasons. I do see it as instigating, but at the same time, part of me says, well, maybe the nation needs to see that a majority of the people just don't want to take this bullshit anymore. We know they're liars. We know they're thieves. We know they're, are choosing our freedoms on a day-by-day basis. I mean, you can literally go down the list of the Bill of Rights and just count down the ones that they're trying to take away, and it's pretty much all of them.
Absolutely.
They're trying to take away our national sovereignty. Are we just going to, do we just sit here and keep holding our thumbs and say, well, we're going to fight this system and we're going to vote them out of there? Yeah, how well did that work for the Tea Party?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of beyond the whole voting Democrat Republican issue, because I know that's never going to be changed. They're so tight knit, and there's a lot of money grubbing, money holding power players in there that's not the way to penetrate the castle, as far as I'm concerned. And
right.
What he's doing with an armed, show of force, I don't really see how that will change anything. If the only thing is going to instigate more, it's going to get the gun grabbers riled up, and they're going to try to grab more guns. And if there is any violence, they're going to say, I told you so. And, good people end up maimed, injured, or killed. And, coming from a militia-like standpoint, dude, what are you doing? Like, we don't want any more violence. This is what we're trying to avoid. And, I mean, it's one thing to wish for peace, and it's another to prepare for war. We're doing both. But we're not
right.
here to instigate any war. We don't want it to cause the war. We don't want to be responsible for the first shot fired. That's not what it's all about. A normal militia is here in defense. If you saw me and, 10,000 of my guys go march on, well, especially in Illinois because we can't have guns on us, but if we were to go march Springfield with guns, we're done. They're going to call in the National Guard. They're going to shoot us all. We're all going to end up in detention or FEMA camps or worse. And that's not really, I don't feel that's the way to get the point across either. Do we need strength in numbers? Do we need a majority of the people on the same page? Yes, but do we need a majority of the people with guns just going down to our state capitals? To do what? We're mad. Here's our guns. Take them. We're mad. We're mad. Here's our guns. Take them. What's that going to do? What is that going to do? Voting's not going to do anything. Protesting, I don't really do anymore. I don't see the benefit of it. The best is, I feel, to, network, keep waking people up, find out who's got what strengths and what weaknesses, network and make things work. Yeah, do we need to get usurpers out of there? Yeah, absolutely. Me personally, do I feel is the be-all, end-all, at least one of the solutions? We need to arrest the scumbags. If we were to get more sheriffs and more provost marshals from the military bases across the country, and a good majority of volunteers willing to be deputized and help out these sheriffs and provost marshals, and then lay down the actual factual evidence, which we have, there's easily 4,000 scumbags all spread over the nation, mainly focused in D.C., that we have, and I got to give some props out to guys like the whistleblowers and Anonymous right now for putting this information out, but the lists exist. Their crimes are on paper. We've got proof. We know what they've done. We know the backdoor deals. We can see the bank accounts. We can see the offshore bank accounts. We see the flight patterns. The Bilderberg meeting just happened. I mean, that alone is a great place to start your list.
Yeah.
Every scumbag, devil-worshipping, Molech-loving, blood-sucking parasite to this nation was at that freaking meeting.
Right.
And me, I'm surprised. You've got all these veterans and all these big boys and militias and all these patriots that are, I swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, you just had every foreign and domestic enemy in one place at the same time, and nobody lifted a finger. Nobody did a thing. Alex Jones and David Icke stood on stage and stayed in their regular limelight, but they didn't do anything. They woke some people up. Oh, the Bilderbergs, never heard of that before. Well, come on, man. Did they really do anything? No.
Right.
Did any whistleblowers pop out? No. Unfortunately, I can't help but to believe that that meeting alone just pretty much nailed our asses to a burning building, because too many bad people in the same place at the same time making foreign policies, and you know, you've got a variety. You've got, you know, heads of FEMA, heads of state, heads of large corporations, weapons manufacturers, you know, military people from all different countries, all in the same place at the same time, playing tiddlywinks and chess with us, the people. It never turns out good.
Yeah, our good friends Monsanto were there too.
Yeah. Oh, God, don't even get me started about Monsanto. Come on, man. I'm Native American. This guy is destroying earth, air, water, and fire all in one freaking lifetime. You don't know how bad I want to peek for that guy.
I know. I hear you.
Give me the arrest warrant. Give me the arrest warrant. Somebody give me the arrest warrant, please.
We'll go to a different subject for you at this point. I wanted to ask this question, and it's probably a 1,000-pound question, and you can answer it however you want to. But you know, you talked about the militia. You know, you guys have pretty much, well, I should say us guys, because I would be part of that too. But basically, the preparation is being made in the event of certain things going down. Let's talk about that scenario just for a moment here. There are a lot of YouTube videos, and I don't believe them all, but there's some kind of trustworthy ones that talk about the fact that there are foreign presence here on our soil. Can you either verify or not verify that for me?
Well, luckily that wasn't as 1,000 pounds as you felt it was. There are, how can I say this? There are reports, but many are unconfirmable. But there are so many that it's undeniable. As far as numbers, I've heard in excess from 20,000 plus on the southern border to up to 1 million at some of our own bases. You know, they've done training, and this usually leads to, obviously, to foreign troops ranging from China, Russia, and I've even actually heard German troops. Can I confirm that nor verify it? No. Although I've got many friends that are in the military that said that they have trained with and taught and worked right next to UN troops and are currently doing so. But could I divulge exactly where? I would probably rather not do that, considering the limelight I'm in as it is.
Yeah, you don't have to, Bryan. But the 1,000-pound part of this is the next part. I was going to ask, you know, first whether you can confirm or not that there are actually these units, and there are a lot of people saying that there are. But the 1,000-pound question is this: what do you think their end game is? I mean, what reason do they have? Do you think it's the people, or do you think it's this corporation? What is their end game?
Another good question. I could go with what's in front of us as a reality, and then you could go with a little bit of conspiracy theory, which may be a reality, and then you can just go with what's in front of us. You know, and I know the economy is not doing very well right now. Unemployment's up. Crime is high, especially around here. And I'm not positive about all other states. But, you know, when that final blow comes to the economy and the second bubble hits, you know, when a gallon of milk's $12, $13 and Gallon of gas is now $10 also, and you're only making $300 a week, and that barely feeds you, much less your rent and bills. People are going to start panicking. People are going to start, civil unrest. Crime is going to go up, and unfortunately, not based on what I'm going to do when that happens, but unfortunately, the big chain stores are going to get a good rush of people there stealing from them, and there's going to be a lot of anarchy going on. And in the position being with the Sons of Liberty, we're supposed to be here to kind of help and prevent and avoid insurrection and rebellion. But especially being in Chicago, I don't know about other states, we know damn well the governor is never going to instill us, so we don't feel that we're fully going to be, the federal version of a quote-unquote constitutional militia, to where we're ever going to be able to use the military's, equipment, gear, supplies, communications, etc. Would we like to be there and help repel an invasion? Yes, but civil unrest, that's us. That's the people. The people are going to freak out. What are we going to do? Our contingency plan pretty much lies on friends, family, and community. I can only watch out for my friends, family, and community. I'm not going to, it depends on the situation, too. What if it is foreign troops and they start martial law? Well, the riots will only last so long, and they'll quell that, and then they're going to start going door to door, and they're going to start taking weapons away. Well, that's pretty much what happened in the past, with the Holocaust. I mean, they made you register your weapons, so they knew where they were all at when it came time to come and get them.
Right.
That's one of the scariest possibilities that I'd say the militia watches out for the most, would be, foreign and our troops here to start martial law. That's a big, bad no-no. But then you've got other aspects. What if it was an act of terrorism, but based on what we know, what we just talked about, a good portion of acts of terrorism, quote-unquote, turn out to be a false flag attack. So, if there was something that was contrived by our government to possibly, chemical weapon, nuclear weapon, biological weapon in any major city or state, wouldn't it make sense to bring in, more troops, considering all of our boys are out overseas fighting non-legitimate, never declared wars as it is? They're going to call upon other guys that have no problem shooting an American citizen, men, women, or children in the face. Normally, all the military guys, most of them that I know, are not going to shoot an American citizen, unless, of course, the citizen's trying to kill them. But I don't think the UN troops are going to have a problem with that, and that bothers us as well. Blue helmets are not your friend, and I don't mean the CPD, I mean UN troops wearing their infantry blue helmets.
Right. Well,
that is basically one scenario we are preparing for.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a fair answer. I guess the way I like to look at it is I have a little bit of a different worldview. I think that the rest of the world is very aware that it's not the people that are the problem. I think the rest of the world is very aware that the problem is that corporation. I mean, after all, that corporation has suppressed, raped, pillaged, stolen everything away from every other nation. Yeah. And they've stolen everything that they have. And I think that, I guess I like to think this way because I'm a half full kind of guy, not a half empty, But
sure.
But I think it's conceivable in my particular worldview, and based on some of the things that I study and try to piece together, that these people are not there to deal with us. They're there to deal with these crooks.
In a half full, unicorn, lollipops, and cotton candy and rainbow type environment, you bet your ass that would be great. If all the heroes in the military that are really actually willing to stick to an oath to support and defend can also differentiate who the actual enemy is and stand up in the ranks, which I kind of have to add that based on what I feel I know, or with, the communications I have had, and you look at the quote-unquote suicide rate in the military right now. Look at all the, you can even look it up. Veterans are disappearing all over this nation right now.
Right.
And I think that some of them are standing up, and I think some of them are communicating and trying to do something to do that. But a lot of them end up, suicided or being killed or disappeared because they are trying to do so. And there's no secret now that, the government can tap into just about any form of communication that we have amongst each other at this point. So I think they've had that for long enough where they've monitored that and caught a lot of the, what I would call good guys that were very well planning that, anybody could see it. If you're listening to mainstream or news, you'll see that there are definitely veterans that have been killed recently, and, the media spins it into another reason, but I think my theory lies in that I think that they have tried to do something, and I think that things are forming, and men have stood down. Men have said, no, I'm not going to kill these civilians. No, I'm not going to take these illegal orders. And unfortunately, now that they're property of the U.S. corporation just has them, killed.
Right. Well, Bryan, we're out of time, so I'm going to give you the last minute here. If you want to tell people, how they can maybe friend you on Facebook or reach you in some capacity in case they have an interest in getting a hold of you.
Actually, could I take this time to actually plug the company that I'm working with right now?
Oh,
really
yeah,
trying to help out.
Please do. Go ahead.
I actually have had the blessed, fortunate opportunity of being the only civilian sales member on a force that is a better-known business by the name of Grunt Style. Grunt Style is actually one of the leading suppliers of clothing and apparel to a variety of military, gun stores, arms dealers, patriotic groups, rider groups, Patriot Guards, things like that across the nation that does clothing and apparel. And I just kind of wanted to leak that out there that if anybody has a patriotic group or even a business that, they consider patriotic, if you're a veteran, especially if you're a grunt, hoorah, I would be more than happy to get a hold of us at Grunt Style, and I will make a custom designed T-shirt from one of my combat veteran graphic designers, and we'd be more than happy to help sponsor your shirt and get our name out there to help get what you're trying to do out there. And as long as it's patriotic, I won't charge you for any graphic design, but be more than happy to put something cool together for you and get it out to the world if you've got a message that's patriotic to spread, or if you're a group or a business or a vet or a current military person that just wants to maybe even get a shirt made for your, your squad or division or battalion. We'd be more than happy to put that together for you. And everything we do there is American-made, bought, and sold by veterans and patriots. So gruntstyle.com or Grunt Style on Facebook. If you want to take a look, we'd be happy to help you out.
All right. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you coming on tonight with me, Bryan. It's been a pleasure. We covered a whole lot of subjects, and I think that people are going to be interested in listening to this show for quite some time. So, again, thanks, Bryan.
Okay, you ever need me again, Rick, just give me a call.
All right, Bryan, I will certainly do that. So for Bryan, Free the People Duzak, I think, did I kill your name, Bryan?
No, Duzak, that's how we've been saying it for a generation now.
Okay. All right, so for Bryan, Free the People Duzak, and Rick Hidalgo, this has been the House of Hidalgo Show on the estate. You guys have a great night. God bless. And stay safe.